Well, welcome to this exciting live webinar. We're going to cover some significant ground here today, and thank you all for taking your time out to be with us this morning. My name is Temba Chakela. I'll be your moderator today. And just to kick things off and get the big elephant out of the room, I mean, noticeably, every conversation today touches on AI and all the improvements and enhancements that it's going to make and what it means for the future of us as human beings and technology overall. But it's important to remember that none of that intelligence and innovation is possible without a strong, secure, modern network at the foundation and as the backbone. And that's what we're going to uncover today. I'm drawing on the knowledge from two juggernauts in the industry. First up, we have NTT DATA. They're a $30 billion innovator serving 3/4 of the Fortune Global 100 companies. And they have operations in 50 countries and a partner ecosystem spanning the globe, from startups to established giants. And they're helping organizations across the globe reimagine what's possible. And that ranges all the way from infrastructure applications and connectivity through to AI innovation. Networking is absolutely in their DNA. And with more than $3.6 billion invested annually in R&D throughout the group, they're shaping how societies and businesses move confidently and sustainably into the digital future. And let's not forget, being where we are, the proud legacy behind NTT DATA's presence in South Africa. Rooted in the iconic Dimension Data brand, founded more than 40 years ago, and a local powerhouse in ICT, the business officially rebranded as NTT DATA across the Middle East and Africa region last year. They have a long-standing relationship with Cisco, and they're a true networking pioneer. Since its founding in 1984 in the US, Cisco has been at the forefront of network evolution, from LAN routing to today's AI-ready infrastructure staples like SD-WAN, cybersecurity, and collaboration tools. Their long-standing collaboration with Dimension Data, NTT DATA, spans more than 3 decades, combining global innovation and local execution at strength. So today's agenda, we've gone through the introduction already, but we'll be covering what leaders are really thinking about AI and networking. We'll explore the drivers and inhibitors of network modernization, and we'll trace the evolution of networking into what it needs to be today. And of course, we'll showcase the combined expertise of NTT DATA and Cisco and why that trusted collaboration and holistic approach matter more than ever in today's world. So whether you're a CIO, a business leader, or part of the IT team making things happen on the ground, welcome to this call, and I'd like to introduce my speakers as well. So first up, we have Prashil Gharib, a results-driven leader with deep expertise in ICT. He's led product lifecycle management, business development, and technology planning, and is equally comfortable speaking the language of electronic engineering and the language of business leadership. Joining him, we have Mark Jesserman, with over 25 years in the technology industry across sales management, and business management in the Middle East and Africa region. Mark is passionate about how technology can unlock human performance and elevate the user experience. So we're in really, really, really good hands today. So Prashil, let's get things started.
Thanks, Temba. Thank you so much. And everyone that's joined us on the call today, thank you very much for joining us. I think, if we look at modern networks, before we even get into the design and the implementation and so forth, we understand what the client's requirements are, what the pain points are, what are the drivers for having a network that, in managing their client experience, their employee experience, and creating that ability to reach their stakeholders in order for them to operate. And what we're seeing across the world, is that there's several driver challenges and enablers that clients are highlighting that seems to be common across, the industry, but it's depending on the vertical that clients come from, we find that these things weight in different factors. The first one, that's quite a big thing for us today when we talk to clients is the architecture and the way that the business is now, needing to reach new markets, needing to grow into e-commerce, for example. And in order to do that, the entire service design needs to change to be more distributed. And using the internet for the strength of the internet to reach their clientele, etc., is quite an important factor in making sure that both the core environment as well as the branch connectivity is as modern as it needs to be. Notwithstanding the fact that the employees that are on that network are able to access the applications, the cloud itself for resilience or for storage of the critical business data that is required. So, it's quite important that when we talk about network modernization, the distribution of the cloud and the applications into those environments is considered in the way we understand that environment. Secondly, security. Security is foundational to everything we're doing because of the way we operate. We operate today from different locations. We are able to see each other through various applications that, they themselves, if they're not secure by design, are creating threats and vulnerabilities for enterprises to cater for. And it's not easy anymore to cater for single applications that you want to interact with. Lots of businesses that we speak to are trying to create policies to limit the applications, whether they're over the top or they're enterprise grade. But people are people, and being social animals, we find different ways of interacting with each other. And that itself is something that, needs to be considered in terms of both a bring your own device as well as a multi-access into the environment that needs to be catered for. So it's quite important that the devices that are sitting on the network, both trusted and untrusted, are given the right level of prioritization, the right level of security access in order to keep the business healthy. And I think quite importantly today, a lot of our CIOs that we interact with are talking about ROI, not just in the upfront investment, but the ongoing investment in their network. We're seeing that cost of networking, cost of cloud, if not designed properly upfront, is running away, as well as the cost of maintaining these environments. If the client chooses to do a lot of it themselves, it's something that needs to be controlled. And we know that skills are quite scarce. So the management of the environments, if not modern enough, is something that can get quite hairy. And, CIOs that are interlocking with their CFO counterparts or stakeholders at ExCo level need to be able to justify either the upfront or the ongoing cost. And what's making it a lot harder for them to maintain the modernness of that is to justify how a commodity part of their environment in any business today that's focusing on production or focusing on retail, and the network is seen as part of the commodity stack, but albeit quite important to the business, if justified properly, the ROI becomes something that the clients are asking us for support on in justifying the existence of the network, the modernness of the network, and then the ongoing manageability of that environment. So, there's two ways to look at AI, in terms of how it drives network modernization. The first is AI being part of the business fabric today. It's on the topic of on the board as a key topic of discussion in terms of how AI is being used to improve the generation of information and the interaction with clients, but also at the same time in automation and improvement of the delivery of services for clients. Now, that's causing a massive data movement. And what that means is, with the amount of information that's being pulled, the amount of information that's being generated now, a lot more by bots and applications that have embedded AI in it, that data needs to be traversed across the business environment, whether it's in the remote branch, in the distribution center, or in the offices between users and between applications. And that itself is a massive driver for network modernization as we're seeing it today. That obviously creates a lot of vulnerabilities in the environment. And again, a modern network that caters for AI, that caters for all the functions of it, needs to be designed and as securely as possible. And it ensures that clients need to go and look at vulnerability assessments all the time, considering the impact that this volume of data is creating. we also find that AI is quite hungry to access their cloud applications in order to pull in the large language models or to work at the edge from a small language model perspective. Either way, bandwidth is critical. So, network modernization needs to cater for not just the volume of data being passed between applications, but the number of applications that are now consuming that, and the number of users coming in and out of the environment that are consuming that data that's being curated through AI mechanisms. Now, that's the first part of what AI means from a network modernization. When we look at how AI is helping clients and helping operators and managed service providers like ourselves in ensuring that the time to resolve, the time to manage, and the time to prove innocence is becoming a critical part and a competitive advantage for a lot of our clients. And we find that, from a automation in network and network management, not just AI, but things like machine learning and RPA, and now even agentic AI is being used quite a bit by us and by our clients to ensure that they can stay relevant, they can prove an incident and ensure that it resolves as quickly as possible, and to make sure that the right level of reporting is going to the right business stakeholders as the network becomes a key enabler and hence a risk item if not designed properly and as modern as it needs to be. So, if we look at the network today, what is defined as a modern network? Okay. And, in the past, software defined was the hype. A lot of our clients haven't really gone down that journey as quickly as they are because of the business requirements that have changed, or quite fundamentally, where the software defined world allowed for democratized networking. It allowed for the environment to be as open as possible without the lock-in of legacy network providers using MPLS, etc. At the same time, if your network is part of your environment to reach your clients or to talk to your employees, then you need to make sure that it's available, that it's giving you that immersive experience, that you are able to remediate as quickly as possible if you need to be. So software defined, in our experience, is actually only a step, one of the steps, in fact, the first step in driving towards network modernization. It allowed for, through the use of the internet, to move away from private environments into more public distributed worlds. But now the question of, can the client do the design themselves? Can the client manage the environment themselves? Possibly, but not without a huge investment in people that have the tools that the client needs to invest in order to manage the environment and do the right level of support so that the applications and the users are always available, always on. So, that's why we say today that software defined, as much as it's from a solution perspective, is a key enabler. It itself has moved on towards intent-based networking, application-driven networking, etc. And I think from that perspective, we then move into the realm of, rather than just looking at SLA, service level agreements that are contracted in from a co-managed perspective, or if you're moving to a full-on outsource world for your network to be driven, how do you contract your service provider through an experience-driven service level? In other words, pay for outcome rather than pay just for incidences to be managed as quickly as possible. That's a second step in network modernization and driving towards where we see the world evolving today. Okay. The third thing that we find in network is that it's not limited to single tower. It actually focuses across multiple towers in a client environment, from the IT stack all the way to the OT stack, reaching into the application world. And visibility is quite a critical part of being able to understand the flow of information across the environment so that, if needs be, the right level of change, the right level of scale, the right level of remediation is put in place, or processes are put in place rather, in order to make sure that the environment end to end is as available, as resilient, and as secure as you need it to be. So that's quite a key part of it. And then conjunctively, how does the network then collaborate with the cloud environment? Because we know today that clients are moving from public environments back to a world of more hybrid cloud environments. And that's to cater for things like latency, that's to cater for things like the cost of cloud, and also to make sure that the applications that are critical to the business are as close as possible to the business. The orchestration of the environments are now seen simultaneously being managed. And the key thing for a managed service provider is to ensure that the client is able to have a single service experience across these environments. And when modernization takes place, it's done at the same time. We've spoken at length about security, right? But as clients now move back to more hybrid environments and delivery models, secure service edge becomes quite a key part of networking. And we're seeing that evolution from the network itself towards SaaS-E. And SaaS-E is the world of networking and security being combined or converged into a single box, for want of a better word, in order for clients to save on high capital cost upfront, but also at the same time have the ability to secure the network from the application stack through the user stack, through tools like ZTNA, down into the network itself for us to be able to policy control, policy manage, and ensure that any device that's coming in, whether secured, trusted, or not, is able to be controlled and managed. And should the right level of action be taken where the threat plane is exaggerated, then that can be managed. Lastly, and if you move from the solution world to the service world, the commercial part of network modernization is quite a key driver for us today. And why we say that is clients, like I said earlier, may or may not have the ability to afford a full-on modernization upfront, drive the transformation as quickly as possible. But where it becomes quite compelling to clients in doing that is their ability to transition that environment onto someone else and then ask that partner in that environment to allow them to consume the service as they need be. That guarantees scalability, that ensures a better return on investment. In other words, pay per use as far as possible on the LAN or on the edge environment. It allows them to make sure that they can hold accountability to the service provider who's then part of the ecosystem. It allows them to access a much greater pool of people that previously were not available if it was all being done themselves. And it allows this global expertise with local relevance to come into place, thus creating a consumptive, fully aware, fully context-aware environment that the service provider then takes accountability and makes sure that the environment is modernized as necessary as it needs to be. Change management is run, vulnerability management itself. That's coined as network as a service, but that's a key function from a commercial perspective or an option for clients today with varying levels of investment that clients can take with partners like NTT. So I think we just need to switch now to where Mark's going to help us understand what secure networking means to our business.
Thank you, Prashil, and good morning, everyone. So as Temba alluded to right in the beginning, our heritage is in networking. And while our heritage is in networking, our portfolio and our offers need to evolve. So what I'm going to do is just take a few minutes to just take you through our approach to building business resilient and secure networks. So we focus on three main areas, being the campus network, the WAN edge, and cloud networks. And we connect clients' digital real estate across their campus environments, their branch environments, their factory environments, and also all their IoT devices. So effectively connecting people, equipment, and things to their applications and data, whether they sit in the public cloud, the private cloud, on SaaS platforms or in co-location facilities. It's important that the solutions that we take to market are secure by design, and observability also plays a key aspect to ensure that clients have full visibility across their campus networks, their WANs, and their cloud networks. And then sustainability, I think, is becoming top of mind for more and more clients. And we have technology and tools available to help our clients really understand what their carbon footprint is and how they can drive down their carbon footprint with specific technologies. But what brings all of this to life? And that is the NTT DATA services. So we have a full stack of services, full life cycle of services, starting off with technology consulting. where we really look at your as-is state. We run assessments and then work with you to build out your to-be state. Our professional services, how we implement and manage projects successfully. And then, from a support services perspective, we've had a big enhancement to our support services offering. So being able to, support not only clients' legacy hardware environments, but also being able to support them in the software-defined world that, clients find themselves in. And with a big focus on not only achieving, SLAs, but really driving business value and outcomes for you as a client. And then, we have our adoption services, and that really is to help you maximize the return on your investment in terms of the software that you've invested in and making sure that, the software is deployed and adopted in your environments. We offer our clients a one enterprise agreement with services included. So this is effectively an enterprise agreement for your entire software estate with services wrapped into that enterprise agreement. And then, our portfolio is underpinned with our managed services offering, which Prasheel will spend some time taking us through later in this webinar.
Thanks, Mark. And I think that, going straight into the questions, your CIOs are faced with having to balance innovation, risk, and return on investment. What's really, really keeping them up at night when it comes to the items you've just covered?
Thanks, Themba. Great question. So I think this AI era that we're living in has created, an exciting time, but also very challenging time for all of us. When you consider the level of investment in AI, which is driving this unprecedented, I suppose, rate and pace of innovation, the C-suite and in fact the entire enterprise is under immense pressure. Just looking at some data points, Prasheel brought some up in his second slide. I've heard that there's over $1 billion being invested in AI on a daily basis. We hear that 99% of the Fortune 500 companies are using AI. And there are over 800 million AI users daily. 74% of AI users have actually integrated the technology into their daily work. So CIOs are they're required to build networks for AI, but also they're required to build networks that have AI embedded into it. We believe that the network is the foundation of the digital business, and networks that were once seen as back office utilities, I think Prasheel referred to commodity networks, are now seen as strategic growth enablers for business. And with this context in mind, I see, I've categorized the pressures that CIOs are under into 5 key themes. The first relates to cybersecurity risks and complexity. The second, legacy infrastructure. The third, operational complexity. The fourth relates to the pressure that they are under to scale AI into their businesses at speed. And the fifth relates to costs, skills, and partner selection. So let me just take a couple of minutes to delve into each. Firstly, looking at cybersecurity and risks. I think from a cybersecurity risks and complexity, I think firstly from a risk perspective, AI has definitely enhanced our cyber defense capabilities with the AI that is embedded in the technologies that we get from leading OEMs. However, it's also resulted in more sophisticated cyber attacks. And when you look at the complexity aspect, right, what we see is that most enterprises operate fragmented security stacks. A staggering 70% use more than 10-point solutions, and 24% use more than 30-point solutions. The challenge with this is it leads to silos, it leads to slower detection, and it leads to higher risk exposure. And the impact really to security teams is they face alert fatigue. They have longer recovery cycles, and then they face huge challenge in meeting compliancy mandates. When I look at legacy infrastructure, I think, the challenge with legacy infrastructure, it extends across the entire networking stack. So the LAN, the WAN, and the data center. This legacy infrastructure really creates bottlenecks, it creates security gaps, and it creates operational inefficiencies that are really preventing, organizations from scaling AI and cloud workloads effectively into their business. So, when organizations or when, technology teams are planning network modernization projects and designing their architectures, they need to modernize the network with the entire stack in mind. Even if they go and deploy it at a phased approach, they need to build this design with the end state in mind. Moving on to operational complexity, hybrid and multi-cloud architectures spread workloads across the campus environment, or on-premise environments, private cloud environments, and public cloud environments. And this means that, having proper visibility and control of your network, can be quite difficult. Troubleshooting can be slow. Service can sometimes be unreliable. And, there's the prospect of downtime increasing. And this obviously, hampers AI models that rely on continuous streams of data for accuracy. When we move on to the pressures that CIOs are facing to, scale AI into their business at speed, we worked with IDC on a report, and what we found is that 85% of CIOs have been given less than 18 months to implement AI strategies for their organizations. The challenge is only 30% of them feel fully prepared. So there's a huge amount of pressure from boards, from stakeholders, and this is forcing, rush deployments, often without proper governance or readiness. And, this creates a massive risk for organizations. And I think, if you think about shadow IT, it comes to mind here. And then lastly, just, the challenge associated with cost, skills, and partner selection. The reality is that, to invest in an AI-ready network requires a significant amount of capital. The challenge is most organizations don't have an endless pot of money, right? So CIOs are really faced with this challenge of having to modernize their network to meet their business requirements, but doing so within, quite a tight budget constraint. The second issue relates to skills. And, many organizations find that they have outdated skills and insufficient skills to really build, these AI-ready networks that are required, today. And then the last really is it relates to partner selection. And I think, organizations and CIOs are really under pressure to choose partners who are, financially stable. They have the right, skill set within their organization. They have the right relationships with key and leading technology vendors, and they have the appropriate level of security built into their platforms, as well as governance within their organizations to ensure that as a client, they are not exposed to any undue risk.
No, Mark, if I was a CIO, I guess I'd be getting less sleep than I am now. But for these things to happen seamlessly and for it to be like magic client facing, I mean, Prashil, visibility and control behind the curtain are key, right? So why do those two things, visibility and control, matter so much in actually getting value out of the investments that organizations are making? I mean, we understand the customer facing impact, but true value often resides somewhere in between.
So I think, it's look at the network or look at any infrastructure technology that a client invests in today. It's something that if you really look at how it touches the client's customers, how it touches the client's, distribution network, right? How it actually helps in interacting with their customers' client experience environments, or through distribution channels, or any of that advertising and media that needs to be pushed out. So, the network is foundational to any environment. And what we're finding today is clients, like in the retail sector, are expecting us not to contract them in how quickly we respond to network issues, but actually to put skin in the game a little bit more on how we match the network performance and the network availability to the size of their basket and the amount of revenue that they're generating with the network being in place, or better performing much better in delivering ROI back to their business. That behavior and that requirement is coming out a lot more as we move towards experience-led agreements with our clients in managing it. And it's not just in the retail sector. We find this in financial services as well, that the level of accountability that the client wants us to provide them in order for them to justify to business that we're the right partner for their environment, together with having selected the right tools and the right technologies that have come in, is something that we've adapted to in making sure that we're not just monitoring things at device level. We're able to look at it through the application layer, all the way through the users, into the backbone of that environment, to provide the right level of statistics for them to show the trends, for them to be able to show, proactively any incidences that could come across based on experience that they've had in the past, or behaviors or indicators that applications are not performing, or there's a security risk, etc. So those are foundational characteristics of how we need to design our service operating model for clients, or how clients themselves take different types of tools and different type of people and bring them together in managing their environments. So transparency is still a key foundation element of any good service model in managing the infrastructure layer. We're finding accountability is quite key through the stack, and what tools need to be put in place, or technologies like AI that need to be invested in conjunctively with the network modernization, to give the clients the trust that they are able to provide that data back to their users, to their business, etc. And how do we then react to that, not reactively, but proactively, in making sure that the network stays up, stays resilient, is scaling to the level it is given the right level of patch management, vulnerability management, etc., and is true to what the business wants it to be as the business is scaling. And it's something that we find that it actually unlocks the value of the network and the investments that clients are making across the infrastructure stack, if we are able to provide that level of visibility. And I think the last point on my side is, if we look at visibility, observability is linked to that. Observability across the environment, across the enterprise architecture, is quite key. And therefore, when we look at the different tools that we have and look at the network management and the network itself, how do we make sure that we can pull data from that? How do we push data to that to make it as accountable and as transparent and as reliable as we need to be, so that the business can adapt to changes or to threats or to any form of campaign or media activity that needs to happen, or cloud backup event, or anything else that clients are driving on, to keep the environment as up to date as possible.
Yeah, Priscilla, and you touch on a good point there, because in this world, right, it's not enough to know and think or talk, right? You must be able to do as well. And Mark, you touched on my two favorite caps earlier on, capacity and capability, because that's really what delivers at the core phase. And you've worked across the NTT DATA Cisco partnership for years, right? But what makes this collaboration different in helping customers modernize for AI readiness?
So Temba, we have a long-standing relationship with with Cisco that extends back to 1981, when we became their first, one of their first, if not the first, gold partner outside of the USA. So we have years of collaboration, with Cisco, blending, I suppose, the global expertise and capability of both organizations, industry-leading technology from Cisco to develop networks that are secure, intelligent, AI-ready, combined with the top technical talent, within the NTT DATA group. We have over 500 CCIEs globally, and in South Africa, we've got 23. So, a combination of world-class technology combined with top technical talent is, I think, a huge differentiator. And, this technology enables us to build, edge to cloud fabrics using Cisco's Catalyst and Silico One platforms. We're able to take clients from a hardware-defined world to software-defined world to intent-based networking, world. The latest technology from Cisco allows us to build AI-optimized infrastructure for our clients. You combine this technology with our lifecycle services, which I touched on one of our earlier slides. And then, you touched on it right in the beginning in your intro, the innovation. We spend, $3.6 billion annually on innovation. So that's what we do as an organization. But we have innovation labs with Cisco, and we co-create solutions for clients together. So, I think these, really the key aspects that really differentiate NTT and Cisco together in the market, as well as the alignment at key, levels, executive levels, and key stakeholder levels across both organizations throughout the world.
Yeah, and I mean, there's no better way to reduce complexity than calling on strong partners. But there is a secret, Prashil, to free up IT teams to focus on strategic growth. I mean, there's this constant battle between transactional, tactical, and strategic IT and infrastructure. But how organizations using managed services to simplify operations and free up their teams for innovation to put those big innovation budgets to use?
The advantage of being part of NTT, Themba, is that we see, IT in different formats from different parts of a client journey, right? And we definitely, where we see seed and growth coming today in our portfolio is, in the application world, in the AI, Gen AI spaces, and in the edge. And it just says to us that clients' focus is moving quite quickly there because those are the technologies that they want to infuse into their business to drive growth, to drive innovation, to bring down cost, and in some cases to be more compliant to whatever regulatory framework or statutory environment they work within. So it doesn't really leave much for network and managing the network as much as that. But that combined with the fact that these challenges that clients are facing, we spoke about security, we spoke about employee experience, we spoke about adding more distribution channels, etc. That all needs to be considered in the environment that clients are operating in. And we believe that rather than just focusing on trying to juggle people around just to focus on firefighting, we need to free up the capacity of people towards the business challenges where there's real ROI for the CEOs and the CFOs of organizations, and allow the network itself to become self-healing, to become as immersive as it needs to be. Mark spoke about the different levels in which a network can operate, and the technology exists, right? It's how quickly clients get to that makes it as easy to manage as it needs to be and as scalable as it needs to be. So joining back to the point around skills, absolutely, we need to find ways in which we reduce complexity in client environments in the technology infrastructure stack by either transitioning clients onto more autonomous operations models in order to free up capacity for work like that, or to transform it as rapidly as possible and then take it over to autonomous systems so that the network itself gets those characteristics that we mentioned now and becomes modern enough so that you don't have to play that continuous juggling act between where the capacity is firefighting or capacity is looking at business and helping business in achieving their growth objectives and therefore justifying their existence while using strong enough relationships with the market, either through managed partners or advisory elements, or being able to bring in much more hybrid models that help clients achieve the goal of modern networks.
And I think, going beyond buzzwords, and it's quite hard to fathom what global expertise really means unless you've done that 16-hour Singapore flight and then headed off to San Francisco immediately thereafter, and then landing up in London, thinking you're sitting in a South African hotel. But it can feel like a buzzword. But Mark, I mean, having been on the ground for over 2 decades, practical value, how is that distilled from scale in NTT Data?
So I think, firstly, we have a principle in our operating model, which is really this global organization with local presence. And our strategy is to be closest to our clients and be able to respond quickest to our clients. And that means that, we have, invested in the right level of capability within, the geographies, with which we operate, which is, 50 countries, around the world. And then obviously within those countries, within the cities, with the major cities within those countries. So I think that's the first thing, Temba. When I look at, I spoke about the scale and the experience. If I look at our business, just some data points just to consider, over 10 million assets under management, over 9 million, CIs that we support on a daily basis, close to 5,000 engineers, across the world, over 10,000 network assessments and implementations across, the 50 countries. When I look at South Africa, I think we've probably dealt with all, if not the majority of corporates, South Africa. And our ability to really support our clients on a 24/7 basis across, our global delivery centers throughout the world. And that obviously includes, capability within South Africa. And in actual fact, South Africa has been identified as one of the, I suppose, the global delivery hubs. So we actually deliver, managed services for many clients, in other countries around the world. And then, it's our industry-specific expertise. So, I think we've had decades of experience in dealing in verticals like banking, insurance, manufacturing, healthcare, retail. But this integration of NTT Data and NTT Limited brings a new dimension and a new element to that. And I don't think, our clients in South Africa have fully experienced the true value proposition when it comes to our vertical expertise and experience. And, we're building out that capability now, with a focus on financial services, a focus on retail, and then a focus on manufacturing, where we're bringing experts from the industry into our business to build out practices. The third is really around, our AI-powered managed services. And I think Prasheel touched on, some of our managed services capabilities. But, NTT Data has 11 Cisco-powered managed services offerings, right, which we take to market. So it's our AI Fabric platform combined with Cisco's technologies, such as, their observability technologies, Splunk, Thousand Eyes, App Dynamics. I touched on it earlier, risk mitigation and governance. And I think it's important that organizations choose partners, that have standardized playbooks, that understand the local regulatory requirements, and that have cybersecurity frameworks to reduce their risk. And then the last, but not least, and we have touched on it really, around organizations that understand where the industry is going and are able to support clients on the journeys. And we do that through our people, but also through our innovation.
Yeah. And I think it makes sense. And Prasheel, you and I have talked about this before, right? Like, AI is not a destination, right? And even if it was, the journey towards it has it embedded. So with AI just, also sitting inside the network itself, what do AI-powered platform-based services bring to the table that traditional approaches can't? Mark already covered, some of the awesomeness around the people and the innovation, but there is some secret sauce in there as well, right?
Yeah, yeah. Look, so and I think this journey on making sure that we use AI to help clients is not something that just started this year. It's been going on for a couple of years now, across NTT. And Temba, you're right. I mean, we've got real stats on clients that have used platform delivered services with us in reducing the amount of time it takes to resolve network incidences. We're seeing a 5x reduction in the number of incidences coming through client environments today. Whether they're sitting in the local business or they're sitting across the continent or across the world, clients are able to have a platform that can, reduce that noise quite quickly before it even gets to human support. And I think that's quite an important factor is as much as we tie AI with machine learning, with generative AI and agentic AI as well, we still need the human factor due to the complexity of environments. And we're on this journey towards what would be a dark knock. And it is something that will take a few more months or so to get to. But I mean, what we're really seeing today is the networks that we run on behalf of clients are autonomous. They are more proactive. We are seeing our ability to reduce or predict noise on the environment before it becomes an incident is far greater using artificial intelligence than it was before. And I think it's also key that we talk to clients in South Africa that it's not just being able to remediate, it's also being able to understand network behavior. And AI is helping us in creating more generative reporting that previously took a couple of days for humans to pull together. Now those humans are free to focus on change management and control management of the network network stack. And I think if we tie this the journey of where we are with implementation of AI to where we're going as a business, we're seeing the advantage of adopting it in being able to repurpose some of our L1 and L2 skills that previously either sat at client premises or in our delivery centers to higher level functions. And that helps us to mitigate what would be skills attrition, okay? And the cost of new skills coming in all the time. So by using these technologies and we're able to pass that benefit onto our clients in terms of the cost in which we service the environment, being able to offer more experience-led agreements on our services. And if clients need to still maintain control, we can offer co-managed services, which a lot of our competitors can't do because of our trust in the systems and the tools and the people that we've got that are able to pivot between different formats of managed services. It's not just, offering the service as an AI ops tool, but being able to then combine that with the data that's coming from, for example, Cisco's management platforms, whether it's Thousand Eyes or DNAC, into more illustrative data, more, complete data sets that clients can then trust us, and then they can focus on doing other functions rather than, monitoring us, if that makes sense.
Yeah. It does. And I think, we've had an audience listening to us for just under an hour. As we wrap, maybe let's call on the Pole Ferry to get a little bit of a view from the team on the call around what we've talking about. So we're going to run a quick poll for the 32 people that are with us at the moment, and then we can wrap up with a short comment, Prashil, from you and from Mark around what we see coming through from the respondents. So the question is, what is your organization's biggest challenge in modernizing its network infrastructure? Is it outdated technology and hardware, lack of internal expertise or resources, security and compliance concerns, budget constraints, or an unclear ROI or business case? So we'll see the results as they come in, and we can wrap up with a comment on. All right, there we have it. So budget constraints is a big one. Security and compliance concerns, followed by unclear ROI or business case, and lack of internal expertise or resources. And surprisingly, outdated tech and hardware doesn't feature, which, again, puts South Africa in a class of its own, right? But Mark, do you want to give it a shot first and maybe speak a little bit. Does this reflect the reality you're living?
Yeah, absolutely. I think we don't we don't have a thriving economy at the moment. Hopefully, that will change. And I think the reality is all businesses are under a huge amount of pressure, and there's not an endless or bottomless pot of money to go and modernize their networks. Unfortunately, we don't have Saudi money or UAE money. So yes, there is this budget constraint, and that's why what we're doing with many of our clients is we're working with them to really define what that end state looks like, and then build out a roadmap that will get them to that end state that is aligned with, I suppose, their business requirements, I suppose, risk and governance requirements, and obviously their budget. So it doesn't come as a surprise, and we're very comfortable working with our clients to take them on that journey.
Thanks, Mark. Prashil, what does the crystal ball show you?
Well, it's different clients have different, priorities, different challenges, etc. We've tried to, map that out as on as much insight as possible from that. But what's quite key is, that the network and the drive to network modernization, it can be justified in various ways. It's about selecting a partner that can help you to build that investment case and to help with that transformation journey that you are, depending on your level of maturity and, irrespective of your constraints. I mean, we see a lot of the respondents have spoken about budget constraints, and I assume it's in the running of the network as opposed to just the modernization in terms of tech investment. Okay. And I think it's key that the tools do exist. Okay? We can't kid ourselves. Clients' requirements for networks to help them to grow the business, to adopt artificial intelligence, to manage hybrid environments, whether it's work environments or cloud environments, it's here to stay. Okay. How mature are you is a key question. And how quickly do you want to get to a state of being as open and as immersive and as resilient as you need to be to justify the cost of the investments you've made, or the cost of the investment you need to make to keep up with these trends, is a critical question that CIOs and CTOs need to answer. So as Mark said, it's quite important to speak to service providers like NTT DATA in partnership with Cisco to ensure that you're on the right journey. And we're happy to take clients down that journey, irrespective of their level of maturity. We can help you measure that. We can pull together an architecture. We can help you with a commercial model. It's all up to you to engage with us, and we can send out some of our best people to meet you.
And Temba, if I can just add to that, I mean, I think, Prashil's last slide, he spoke about the journey, taking clients, from a software-defined network to an intent-based network. But he also spoke about commercial innovation, and what we're seeing, with many of our clients is that they want to move to a network as a service type, engagement with NTT DATA, because it's, not only deals with, I suppose, an outcomes type of engagement and an outcomes-based contract with NTT, but it also helps them with their budget constraints. So, we as an organization, we innovate at a technology level, we're innovating at a service level, but also, at a commercial level for our clients.
Thanks, Mark. And I mean, it all boils down to the fact that it's not just about algorithms and models, right? It's about building a solid foundation for the magic that you want to bring to your customers. So on behalf of NTT DATA and Cisco, thank you for being with us today. Prashil, Mark, scholars and gentlemen both, thank you so much. And we look forward to continuing the conversation with the rest of the people on the call. Thank you.